The Hillsboro School District Board of Directors at 517. I'd like to welcome everyone who has joined us tonight, especially members of the Latino faculty who have joined us this evening. Francesca, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy today to introduce you to our Family Caring Advisory Group. We've had many presentations this year alone from our Native American and our Black Village Parent and Family Advisory Committees. But this is our family group, and this is the group that keeps this off with really embracing family engagement, community engagement, and really having our families and parents be active members of providing feedback for our district. So I'm going to turn it over to Fernando Garcia Robledo, who is our education liaison supporting our family engagement, and he's going to allow our three members of our board to go ahead and present us.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Fernando Garcia Robledo. I am the family engagement specialist for the school district. Accompanying me today is Gaspar, one of our interpreters, along with Moises, one of our other interpreters. I will now let my PAC officials introduce themselves.
¿Qué tal? Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Jorge Martínez. Soy el presidente en este momento del PAC y corriendo mi último año, este sería el último año que estoy como presidente y agradecido de estar aquí. Muchas gracias a todos. Ahora podemos presentar a la señora Ligeni.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Aligeni Mata. Soy un nuevo miembro del PAC Latino. Agradecida de estar aquí y mucho gusto a todos.
Tenemos a... Perdón, vamos a empezar de nuevo. Mi nombre es Jorge Martínez.
My name is Jorge Martínez.
Soy el presidente actual del Comité de Padres Latinos.
The president of the Latino Parents Committee.
Estoy corriendo mi último año aquí en el Comité de Padres.
This is my last year running the
Y estoy muy contento de estar aquí con ustedes.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Vamos a presentar a nuestra compañera Ligeni.
Hola a todos. Mi nombre es Aligeni Mata.
Hi everyone, my name is Aligeni Mata.
Soy un nuevo miembro del PAC Latino.
I'm a new member of this committee, Latino committee.
Yo creo mucho en la unidad de la comunidad.
I believe a lot in the community togetherness.
Y estoy muy feliz de estar aquí con ustedes.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Y ahora presentamos a nuestra compañera Laura.
Now, Laura.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Laura Gómez Martínez.
Good evening, good late afternoon. My name is Laura Gómez Martínez.
Soy la vicepresidenta actual del PAC del distrito.
I'm the vice president of district PAC.
Como lo mencionó el señor Jorge, ya es mi último año.
Like Jorge mentioned, same thing. This is my last year.
Pues gracias por habernos recibido y por esta invitación.
Thanks for this invitation and thanks for having us.
Empezamos nosotros. Ok, pues parece que vamos a empezar con la presentación. Como les comenté, mi nombre es Jorge y soy el presidente del Comité de Padres.
My name is Jorge. I'm the president of the committee, Parents Committee.
Y el día de hoy vamos a presentar acerca del propósito del grupo.
Today we're going to present about the purpose of this group.
Creo que uno de los propósitos de nosotros
I think one of the purposes
es asesorar a los miembros del personal de ustedes del distrito en asuntos que afectan a nuestras familias.
is to guide you and the staff in the situation that affects directly to our families.
Uno de los puntos que queremos reforzar el día de hoy
One of the points that we would like to reinforce today
es el hecho que nosotros venimos representando a todo un grupo de padres.
it is the situation that we representing a whole group of parents,
No solamente el grupo de PAC de nosotros, sino a muchos paquitos y la comunidad que representamos.
not only we as a group, but also the whole community that we represent.
Son los puntos que van a escuchar el día de hoy no son puntos personales o puntos de visión solamente de nosotros,
So these points that we're going to present are not just personal or family vision points.
es con todo un proceso cultural y de necesidades y de agradecimientos de un grupo muy grande.
It comes from a whole group of a lot of needs that we presenting.
Podemos pasar a la siguiente slide.
We can go to the next slide, please.
Entonces, las metas de nosotros como grupo
The goals for us as a group
es promover el involucramiento y la participación de las familias,
it is to promote the participation of the families,
hacer recomendaciones con respecto a políticas, procedimientos y necesidades,
to make recommendations when it comes to needs from the political standpoint,
establecer y crear fuentes de comunicación con ustedes
and create bridges of communication
y también con personal del distrito como las trabajadoras de involucramiento familiar.
with school staff like the license of the community.
Estas son metas que planteamos el año pasado
These are goals that we mentioned last year,
y que estamos muy orgullosos de informar que pudimos tener muchos logros.
that we're so proud to inform you that we made a lot of goals,
Como el involucramiento de nuestros jóvenes en el grupo de PAC.
that our youth involvement in our class group.
Esperamos seguir colaborando y tener mucho más trabajo juntos que impacten a la comunidad y los servicios educativos a las familias.
We hope to keep collaborating and impact the community with the services offered.
Dentro de las siguientes slides van a escuchar acerca de recomendaciones que tenemos y también de logros que hemos tenido como grupo.
From the school district, and the next coming slides, we're going to present the needs and the goals that we have as a group.
La siguiente slide.
En esta me toca presentar, como ya saben, mi nombre es Laura Gómez.
I'm going to present. My name is Laura Gomez.
Como vemos la integración de los representantes de estudiantes,
You can see the representation of the students integration,
cómo ellos nos ayudan en las reuniones y a su vez ellos traen eventos que están pasando en su comunidad, en nuestra comunidad.
how they help us, and at the same time that they get involved, they present events that are happening in the community.
Involucramiento familiar activo y constante.
Active in constant family involvement.
Estamos trabajando duro, pero pienso que aún nos falta más impactar en los padres.
We're working so hard, but we realize that we still can do more.
Presentación a todos los paquitos. Presentaciones, perdón.
Presentations to all the paquitos.
En este año estuvimos reuniéndonos los paquitos, en el 80% estuvimos visitándolos, donde llevamos información que está pasando y escuchando sus necesidades.
This current year, we were able to cover at least 80% of the people we were reaching and listening to them about what is going on in our communities.
Talleres informativos, alto impacto en la escuela en Hillsboro.
Shops, informative shops for the High School.
Esto tiene que ver al gran impacto de cómo colabora el director, programa de enlace, la persona, personal de enlace y los padres.
This affects directly the liaison staff with parents.
Donde tuvimos a noticieros y tuvimos también a un a un conferencista nacional.
We have a guest, national conferences, and we will also sharing some news.
Y ahí miramos el gran impacto de las escuelas cuando todos colaboran.
And we notice the big impact at schools when everybody gets involved.
Asistencia a conferencias,
We show up at conferences.
aprendemos mucho en estas conferencias
We learn a lot from those conferences.
nacional,
They're national,
a nivel estatal,
state level,
OAVE,
or other
entre otros.
between another ones.
Pero esto no puede ser posible
This couldn't be possible
si no tenemos el apoyo de nuestra directora Olga.
if we have the support of our principal Olga.
Esperemos seguir creciendo
We hope to keep growing
y ella nos pueda seguir apoyando para este año que viene.
in this coming year. Hopefully she can keep us helping us.
Reuniones mensuales.
We have monthly meetings.
Creo que es importante que nuestro personal de enlace siempre nos dé a saber, los padres dicen, más de una posibilidad de hacer llegar todas estas informaciones.
We hope that our liaison staff are able to communicate with parents about all this information that is going on in our community.
Llamada o mensaje o correo electrónico.
Either calling, sending a message, or by email.
Creación de nuevos paquitos. Creación de nuevos paquitos.
Creating new paquitos.
Se apoyó a 2 paquitos que están por abrir, se les fue a guiar.
We support 3 new groups that are ready about to open in 4 weeks.
Creación de grupo de liderazgo.
We create a group of leadership.
Creo que aún nos falta más y,
I think we can still do more.
y esperamos que con la colaboración de la doctora Olga
We hope that with doctors, Olga's collaboration,
tengamos mejores resultados.
we can have even better results.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Dijo usted que ustedes asistieron a la conferencia de OAVE.
Sí,
Eso es Asociación de Bilingüe de Educación Bilingüe en Oregón.
correcto.
In the conference for Ale, it's a bilingual education in Oregon.
They attend the OAVE conference, which is the Oregon Association of Bilingual Education, as parent leaders. Gracias.
Y ahora seguimos con el mes.
Hola, mi nombre es Alguien y yo voy a presentar las próximas 12 slides.
Then it's Allegheny, and I'm going to present the next 2 coming slides.
Las consideraciones es extremadamente importante juntas con el personal de enlace.
The considerations are highly important with the staff, the licensed staff.
Ellos son los que permiten ellos son los que son el puente entre los padres y el apoyo que nosotros le podamos proveer.
They are the bridge between parents and the support that we might be able to provide.
Y nuestras reuniones con ellos reforzaría la confianza que tienen los padres de reach out, de comunicarse.
And our collaboration is very important because that way we can reinforce how we can communicate.
It's extremely important for the staff to be able to have this bridge with the parents, so that way they know that we are there for them. And meetings with the family outreach team, all of them, is extremely important for us to continue that is strengthening that relationship between parents and the staff, and the support that we can give as PAC Latino community and the principals as well. The next one is gonna be the meetings with the school principals are huge when it comes to achieving celebrations, achieving our common goals. Because in Hill High, for example, there was this huge media coverage that it is Univision, which is international for us. And it was amazing to bring all of that stuff together, all the parents, and you see and you feel in the community how the students feel proud to be part of Hill High, and that is only thanks to the participation and the community and the unison and the continuous collaboration with the principal, with the staff, and with everyone involved. Only together we can actually achieve these huge wins for the school district. Okay. Onboarding new PAC members, that is an ongoing thing while we strengthen the leadership of the PAC Latino community and they see that they can rely on us, then they will love to be part of it, right? Because it's not only for their own children, but they're being part of something even bigger. Leadership training opportunities for PAC members. If we are going to be the leaders, we have to have the best training. We have to have the information. We have to be the ones up front doing like the heavy work, right? To inspire, to motivate, and to and to strengthen the image of Hillsboro school district as well. Access to all leadership conferences available for parents is part of that leadership training opportunities as well, right? If we have access to all of them, then we can bring all of that knowledge to our community and therefore also shine through the Hillsboro district, right? Like as a parent committee that is constantly strengthening the community. Now the next slide. Now, the recommendations are to promote leadership growth and development for district PAC. And that is, like I said, only achievable if we are all working together and supporting each other. And thankfully, we have had a tremendous help thanks to la doctora Olga. And yes, which I am very grateful for. I am new, so I haven't had many interactions, but the ones that I have had have been very helpful and towards the right direction. Build a partnership with the family outreach team and meet 3 times throughout the year. And more information is needed to better understand student assessments are gonna be the recommendations, and we're gonna be following up and we're gonna be letting you guys know how we did it next year. Thank you so much.
Bueno, como ya lo comentamos durante la presentación,
Like we mentioned in the presentation,
hay muchos logros que hemos tenido,
there are a lot of accomplishments that we have had.
pero creo que es muy importante que ustedes entiendan el cambio político que estamos viviendo en nuestra comunidad.
I think it's very important for you to understand our political change that is impacting our community.
En nuestras comunidades, nuestros padres están más preocupados que nunca.
Our communities and parents are more worried than ever.
El impacto lo estamos viendo en nuestras juntas y la colaboración con el PAC.
We've seen the impact in our meetings and the collaboration with PAC.
Y nosotros creemos que teniendo el apoyo no solamente de la doctora Olga, sino de todos ustedes,
We believe that having support not only from the Dr. Olga, but also from all of you,
que una realidad es que hay una desconexión entre el distrito y nosotros como PAC.
our reality is that there is a disconnection between us as the PAC group and the district.
Y uno de los ejemplos que les pudiera dar es teniendo grupos donde están planeando actividades como por ejemplo el currículum de la escuela.
The school curriculum is an example that I would like to supply to you
A lo mejor
as the, por favor, nada más el propósito del currículum.
hay puntas de currículum que van a impactar a nuestra comunidad, ¿verdad? Durante el año que son planeadas.
The curriculum meetings that are very going to impact our community, that are very planned for the whole year.
También tengo entendido que hay un grupo que habla acerca del calendario de eventos y de clases.
My understanding is that there is also a group that talks specifically about the calendars when it comes to events.
Pero nosotros como padres del PAC no estamos expuestos a estos grupos y se hacen decisiones que a lo mejor no se consideran a nuestras familias al momento que se están haciendo.
But we, as parents from the back group, we are thoroughly unaware about when it comes to decisions that are being taking place.
Creo que siendo uno de los PAC que tiene más representación en el distrito,
I think since we are a PAC with most representation in the district,
tuviéramos que estar más expuestos a estos grupos en colaboración para tener un mayor impacto.
we should get a little more exposure to these groups collaborating so to generate more impacts.
Entonces nosotros esperamos como conjunto y como comunidad
So we hoping as a community and conjunto.
in conjunction with our community, with our parents and you guys, to truly have the opportunity to be exposed to different processes. I truly believe, like as we're seeing every single day, that if we continue approaching Paquitos and we bring that message to you and the needs, some of the challenges that we're facing are going to be having less impact in our communities. For example, safety. Safety is one of the biggest situations that we're facing. We are truly aware that our parents are not exposed to the schools because of different situations and circumstances. But if we're able to bring parents into the district and we're able to educate about the importance of bullying, safety, respect, and all these components, then we'll have better parents and more informed parents into the expectations of the schools and our communities. So our goal is hopefully to continue getting the support of you guys and Dr. Olga into having better representation of the groups that we're having at the schools. For example, PACs. So as Allegheny and Laura mentioned to you, we need better trainings. We need a leadership program that really reflect into ourselves and our communities, so more communities can be exposed to that and also being interested in collaborating. So that's one of our goals. They also mentioned about attending different conferences. So I was able to went to those conferences, and it's truly amazing the information that you receive. It's not only helping you personally, but you're reflecting all that information into your families. And that's the message that we wanted to continue passing to that process. So again, the political changes that we're facing are stopping us to approach schools, and parents are scared into coming into the schools now and into some of the groups just because of possibilities. So all this presentation and all this message is with the hope that you continue considering being exposed to our needs more than once a year, because that can help you understanding and seeing the challenges that we're seeing. In name of all the parents, the PAC, we just wanted to thank you for the time and this space, and we're glad to be here, so thank you. I don't know if you have any questions for the group.
Yes, I do.
Of course.
How can the board communicate more effectively and in real time with elections?
¿Cómo se podría comunicar la barra directamente en tiempo real de la manera más efectiva posible?
Una de mis recomendaciones, y después voy a dejar que ustedes pasen.
One of my recommendations that have been allowed for the to participate.
We believe that if we're exposed to you guys more than once, we can bring you specific data that really talks about the situation that we're facing. And I totally understand that you guys might not be able to help us in certain components, But you being aware of those challenges open the door for you to reach into whatever tools or processes you need to take. Just quick example is directors in each school. We've seen directors that are fully supported, and with that support, we're seeing more communities coming. But we're also seeing other directors not being that willing to work with our communities. And that's one of the challenges that we're seeing. We're not seeing consistency into the level that directors are doing or having with each of the schools. If you guys know that, then we can work together. Because this is not about a specific person, it's how can we have a level of services that really impact our children, our communities. So that's one of the suggestions. No sé, alguien elaboraron, si quieren ustedes continuar.
Pues lo mismo, yo pienso que el apoyo de los directores es súper esencial. Algunas,
I think the support from the principals is very essential.
algunas escuelas lo tenemos,
Some schools we have it,
pero escuchando en las reuniones de los paquitos,
but listening from the particular meetings,
no todos.
not everybody.
Y eso se ve reflejado en sus escuelas.
And that is reflected in the schools.
So what I would like to say is you are not restricted in sharing information. That should happen at any time.
Algo que quisiera traer a la mesa es de que nadie está restringido de hacer esas presentaciones. Se las debería dar de presentarlo a cualquier hora.
You can always reach out to the board through Rose, through our superintendent, to say that we are having a problem with this particular, we need to know this. And you're right, you can't wait until once a year. That's not what was designed. We want your input at all times when it happens. Otherwise, we're not much of an effective board.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y hay un lugar donde nosotros o los padres que tienen esas necesidades puedan ponerlas, hacerlas llegar por medio, hay un medio de que podamos llegar esas necesidades a ustedes.
Are there any means that we as parents can channel those needs and present them to you?
What's your role, right? Or the superintendent.
También la doctora Olga y Francesca también, ellos comparten la agenda de las reuniones del PAC con nosotros como líderes. Cada mes que tienen las reuniones, nosotros sabemos cuáles son las presentaciones y cuáles son las conversaciones entre los padres y los líderes. También asistimos como líderes, nosotros como directores y los directores ejecutivos de las escuelas que supervisan los directores. Ellos asisten también a las reuniones, ¿no? Es cierto.
Nosotros, algunos de nosotros ya asiste a esas reuniones.
Yeah. So that we also talk to Olga and Francesca, like we know as leaders of the district what the agendas are for the PAC meetings and what the conversations are at the PAC meetings. And so those are reported back. And then the executive directors who supervise the schools attend the PAC meetings too. We have executive directors who assign themselves to go to each of the PAC meetings so that they're there to hear about the schools. They supervise directly the principals.
Yeah, and just to make it fair, because we do not understand the process, many of the challenges, they haven't been exposed to Francesca or Olga, so they didn't know, and we didn't know how to approach that kind of situation. So now that we know, then we know that there is a meeting or an agenda, we can always express kind of the situation that we're facing. So thank you.
I just don't want you to hesitate. You put it in writing and you tell us on that and allow us to put our resources together to figure out what needs to be done. But I don't want you to feel like you have no way to go and you don't get to talk to us one time a year. That is absolutely not true. The board serves you. He serves us. We serve our students.
Thank you. Now we know. So thank you.
Un requisito de mi trabajo fue ser bilingüe y yo estoy aquí para servirles cuando quiera. Yo hablo y escribo español y yo puedo ir a cualquier punto de ustedes y si quieren mi ayuda, hablar conmigo, lo que quieran, yo estoy aquí para servirles.
Gracias.
Thank you. This is what I'm talking about. So thank you so much. Any other comments or questions from my fellow board members online, or Monique?
Yeah, I did have a question because this is something that I think we've heard in the past. And I wonder, Travis, is there a way that we can have more of a formalized structure of what is what does the support look like from the principals to the PACs, and where is that like documented or written, like a somewhere that we can look to so that there is consistency across of what's expected of them and when it comes to support, but so that we can also follow like what are the best practices where we have schools that have really great partnership with the principal and the PACs. How can we replicate that? So I wonder if that's something that can come back to us as a presentation of like, here's what we found of the really high functioning PACs and principal partnerships, and this is how we're like formalizing it and replicating it across other schools so that it's not like a different experience depending on what school you go to. Wonder if that's something that we could do. And then the only other question that I had was it escaped my mind right now. It'll come back to me in a second. But the first thing was that just the other thing was around for us as also our process with our committees and all of the other work groups that we have going on. How can we add as part of our workflow that either information is shared to PAC leaders or that we go present to the PACs on something? Like, for example, I'm thinking about the calendar. That's a great example. When we had the calendar and all that, did we go to the PACs to present and like, hey, this is what we're working on. This is when the vote's going to happen, or just information so that there's more awareness and kind of threading through our different groups. So everybody has that, that same access to information. So if there's a way of us adding that as part of just something that we do as our practice.
Thank you. Let me answer the first one first. We would love to do a presentation about family engagement and PAC structures for the board. And that could be something that we do at an upcoming board meeting. Every month when we meet with the K-12 administrators for the whole school district, we have topics related to family engagement. Not every single one, but often one of our big themes is family engagement. So folks like Francesca and Olga could share with the board what it is that we expect from our principals as we do family engagement. And in school improvement plans for every school, there's a goal for principals to engage with family, and those are explicitly on paper, and we could share what those are, or at least examples. Gaspar, está diciendo, okay. And then the second question, I don't know, Director Lopez, if you could see Francesca nodding vigorously when you asked about the calendar, that we went to PACs to talk about the calendar committee work and the proposed calendar. And on a number of topics, we share with PACs information to get feedback and inform our practice, from the strategic plan itself down to other topics specific like the calendar. So we could also share some of the ways that we've engaged PACs directly in decision making.
Maybe palabra poquitos. ¿Cuántos escuelas tienen poquitos ahora?
¿Cuántos integrantes?
No, ¿cuántas escuelas?
¿A cuántas?
Ocho.
I would say around like 90% of schools now have parent groups integrated into their schools. There are a few schools that currently don't have formated parent groups, but I am working on getting those up and running.
So you said 90%?
I would say I don't have the specific numbers on this yet, but
it's been increasing every year. That's
yes, absolutely
what I would have guessed. In the past, we've seen tensions at individual schools between PACs and PTOs or PTAs. We've tried to diffuse that because the missions are supposed to be very different. Is this still a problem that we have, or is it not a problem?
Sure.
Bueno, yo quería añadir algo que la clave también es el personal de enlace. Lamentablemente, a veces el tiempo que dura un personal de enlace es muy corto. No sé si porque es muy pocas horas.
¿Lo repite, por favor?
Okay. Bien. Comento que la clave también es el personal de enlace.
One of the key things is the staff, the licensed staff,
Junto con el director.
along with the principal.
Pero el personal de enlace
The licensed staff,
en algunas escuelas
some schools,
cambian continuamente.
they continually change.
Y eso no sé si es por las pocas horas o realmente no sé.
And I can conclude that is maybe because very few hours, or I don't know.
Y en lo que otra vez se vuelven a adaptar a otra persona,
So by the time there is another person that adapts,
viene ese cambio nuevo.
then there is another change again.
Gracias.
Going back into the question, I was able to visit each of the schools that have a Paquito or that have intentions of opening a Paquito. And what I saw is that PTO and Paquitos, they have the less Latino parents in those meetings, but there were not concerns coming to us or challenges in those meetings. So I think that everything is okay, but unfortunately, again, those PTO Paquitos together had more less Latinos in those meetings than the regular Paquitos.
Yeah, and I think PTOs, when they're having a fundraising event, and PAC is having a fundraising event, they see it as competitive.
Yeah, and it could be that, as Laura explained, the family engagement,
Yeah, the principal and whatever, yeah.
is not as exposed as the other ones. The schools, the Paquitos 100%.
What was the event, Beth, that we had downstairs with?
Group leader meeting?
Yeah,
In the
with,
fall.
was it in fall? We had people sitting at the same table who didn't even know were PTO people who didn't even know there was a PAC at their school. And the people from the PAC were in the same room at the meeting. So like, whatever we can do to help break, it was great to watch that barrier get broken down dynamically in the moment. But I wish it wasn't there to begin with.
And and I completely agree. Like I said, I am a new member of the PAC Latino, but I do think that Black Village, Native, Latino parents, and our PTO, we should all be in communication because our kids go together to the same school. So hopefully, and maybe I'll be able to do this recommendation next year, but hopefully it's something that I would like to work on because unity is the key to start breaking that violence as well. And just hanging out and having those fundraisers together. And so, yeah, let's see how that goes.
Henry, we do have a PAC leadership meeting that we have where we bring in our leaders from, and you're new, so I'm just informing you this.
Thank you.
When Black Village comes in, a Latino PAC board has been attending that. And our Native American family group come together. We do it 4 times a year. So you'll have that opportunity now. Make sure our next meeting is, I believe, at the end of May, beginning of June. So I'll make sure you're on that. And of course, Laura and Jorge, you guys, I got to see your background. I'm going to miss it, Jorge. You can come in too so that you can see how all the teams collaborate and talk.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And Francesca, you guys had different events in person with those kind of groups, and that was truly a different experience, a very positive experience when we're seeing each other in person. So hopefully we can go back into at least one of those meetings with the other parts just work together into different situations.
Remember, but it sounds like there's going to be leadership opportunities in a minute.
Was that?
Mark, I will also say that this goes back to almost what Erica said, that we need to make sure that we're encouraging our PTO groups to incorporate and not isolate themselves. I am hearing from my neighbors the same thing. At certain schools, PTOs feel,
Right.
no, they feel emboldened. And what they do then is they isolate themselves from groups like this. And that's not the way it should be. And so what I'm thinking, Audrey, Brooke, Francesca, is there a way for us to be a little bit more prescriptive in our conversation with our PTOs to say, hey, the board is encouraging you to reach out with and make sure if I'm groaner and I'm having an event, I should not be leaving out. I should be doing that in conjunction with my Latino PAC. And how could you not do that in that particular school? That's just one example. But it's a good example of where our PTOs have kind of said, we're good enough. No, you're not. This is a majority minority district. I don't care if you don't like it. It is what it is. So we have to make sure that all of our students are involved, and that includes their parents. And it's a little bit disturbing, and I've heard this is not just at one school. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That we have to make sure that we empower our PTOs to work with all of the parents in the school so that no one is left out. Nice idea when you have those ideas because it's a comfortable group, but just because you may not speak the same language doesn't mean that you don't want to go through the discomfort of having someone who has to have a translator in your meeting. That's not appropriate. And we probably shouldn't make much. Just the thought process.
Well, a question that I have that stems from Nancy's comment is, what does our district level oversight, if any, or support or guidance to PTO, or what type of communication exists between individual schools or districts and PTOs? Do we have certain expectations, or do principals have certain expectations on that as well?
It kind of has an ebb and flow because it depends on who you have in your PTO. And
Yes.
and if you have
If they want to be on site council too.
yes, or if they want to be involved. So I think it's a partnership with the principal. We don't necessarily have prescriptive components of it. There are definitely things that we can, so we can have conversations and encourage. I think it's just also that reminder to PTOs. Historically, I've been this fundraiser, and then PACs have been this advocacy and this component of like sharing what they're feeling in the school environment. So it is we're also trying to figure out, as we also see less and less parents be involved in PTOs in the same way that we maybe saw pre-pandemic, trying to figure out how those two groups do come together in a way that allows maybe for those components of fundraising to still exist, not competing, and then also still being a group that we also feel the advocacy of what families need and want from our school environment. And I think the other thing that we're also seeing as we become, as we said, a more global maturity system, we are also seeing the diversity within our schools. So we're also seeing schools that have not necessarily an PTO, but they have like a multicultural family group, because that's a different population that we're serving in our schools. And so I think we're also seeing that occur. So we may not see PTOs at our school, but we're seeing a multicultural family group, and we're trying to work and support kind of what we were saying, the unity of the environment for the schools that we're serving this. So it's not as much oversight as a partnership with the principal, but we support it. And I know Beth does a lot with like connecting resources, and then they utilize their own to booster us. Kind of a quick overview, I think. Or
Also, an oversight, as Travis though talked about the SIP plans and family engagement, every single one of our building plans, is they also report to us at academic conferences on that family engagement goal. So I would say that's just another level of oversight though. So as we went through 37 buildings and sharing that, they also gave information about that family engagement. But I think with some of your feedback, that could be another place where we ask additional questions during that academic conference time of how is that going in your building? What is that looking like? Connected to your split plan goal, what are some pieces that either need to change or not? But I think that's an additional oversight piece that I haven't heard yet that we do as well.
After hearing your thought, Nancy, on how we can get different organizations within our district to collaborate, thought struck me that our student governments, such as the one we have at Liberty, often put on dances such as the Barley and Brunel. And when we have events like that or other other events such as that, it would be wonderful if we could encourage our student governments or any organization that's led within the individual school, could encourage them to partner with PACs or whatever comes from this meeting, because the students, once we encourage the students to follow up with our PACs, the students become adults and are really much more willing to work with them as they age. If we start by educating our students on from a young age that they should work with these PACs, it will become much easier to encourage any reluctant individuals that this plan will work, has worked for a long time.
Thank you. Patrick, any comments or questions?
No, it's just you answered all my questions. Your presentation, and it was really great to hear from you. And I always tell, I told you this last year as well, but it really, I feel like I'm able to do my job as a board member much better when I get the information from your group. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros esta tarde. I did want to, a concern that I have is I've been on the board for 2 years, and this is the second time that we've had our cat come in. And thank you, Brooke and Andrea and Brandon Beth for your comments. But the concerning part is that it's not the first time we've heard this. It's already been a whole year, and it's the same issue. And so that's what's concerning to me about the lack of communication over thereof. And so I think with the growing demographics in our district and how our, Latino population continues to grow, how can we continue to support that? And where they feel supported as well is my concern.
I know we have to move on, but I consider this very much like a love language situation. Even though I speak one language doesn't mean that you speak the same language. But in order for me to convey that love, I have to speak it so you understand. So what I need for the PAC to be able to tell us is exactly what this communication means. Beth does a 24/7 kind of job of communication. So in my mind, I'm thinking, how can you not be communicated with? But the truth is, if they're telling us 2 years in a row that they're not being communicated with, then we didn't understand their definition of communication, therefore we have not communicated. So I want to encourage us, Francesca, if you could help us to identify exactly what it means for communication. We have to encourage our principals to reach out. And I'm not saying that we haven't. I'm not implying that at all. But it is very clear to me that we're speaking one language, they're speaking another language, and I don't mean that language. I mean communication. So we do a lot of communication for what we do here, but if they're not getting it, it kind of doesn't mean anything. So I just want to make sure that we're all speaking the same, that I'm doing what's necessary for them to understand what they need and vice versa from us. Just not sure what that looks like, but it probably behooves us to find out.
Thank you, and I don't want to take any more time, but we just wanted to make sure that our intention is not to overcome bridges or pass a message in the community that we're bringing all the issues to you. The message, they still should be following the normal protocols if they have a challenge in their school. Our intention is, and thank you, is to truly communicate and be able to pass the message and get into hopefully a commitment with you guys. So next year we talk about more successes and less challenges. So yeah, hopefully we can follow a process that really makes sense for everybody. So thank you.
Gracias. Our next agenda item is literacy data update with Andrea and Gina.
Good evening, everybody. Okay. Pop to the slide. They feel that you're going to.
Sorry.
We had planned to do this a little bit earlier, but we had a few things that go up on our board, but we wanted to just give you an update. We talked, remember back in August at the retreat, we talked about the different types of assessments because accountability is an important part of our strategic plan and the work that we do. And we shared with you the different assessments that we do throughout the course of the year for our students. And as part of this work, I know we've come back and shared different pieces of data around our balance, our graduation data. And so we thought we'd actually give you our data around our phonics survey, which is given to our students. In this case, we're going to talk about first grade for the most part, which we give our first graders this assessment 3 times over the course of the year. And then we also administer it to any 2nd through 6th grader that is below grade level. And I think as we think about our 3rd grade reading goal, we talked about the importance of foundational skills, PK to 2. And so this is an assessment that we utilize that really gives us valuable information about a student's strength and what skills that they might be a little bit needing some support in, especially around phonics and decoding. So again, it's a 1-to-1 assessment that our teachers give to all of our first graders. And it's, again, it helps us figure out what students are proficient in and what we need to instruct them in to be strong. So again, today we're going to focus on our first grade data. And this is the 2nd round of assessment data. We'll do one more at the tail end of the school year as well to give that to you. And we are really proud of the work that you're going to see. And I think it's important to also note we've had more people and more money in our system, and we have created great structures and systems to do so. And so as we think about less adults and less money in our system, some of these amazing things that we're doing are going to become more challenging for us. But I think what we've utilized in terms of our funding or early literacy grants, the extra funds that we've received in the past, all of that have led to some of these great improvements. Get over to Gina McLean, who is our Director of Teaching and Learning, and she is amazing and knows way more about this than I do.
Thank you. I am excited to be here today because when you see the data, you see the excited too. So the phonics survey, like Andrea said, assesses our foundational skills from kindergarten all the way up through multi-syllabic skills in like 4th to 6th grade. So these are 2 examples. The one on the left is some of the skills and tasks in our English foundational skills assessment, and the one on the right is our Spanish foundational skills. And every student takes the English one, and all of our students who are in dual language or in Spanish literacy programs also take the Spanish assessment. So what you're seeing here are just examples of some of the skills. And in the assessment data that we're going to show today, this was at the end of the 1st semester. So at the end of the 1st semester in our English skills, most students will be getting through like letter names, letter sounds, vowel consonant words like at, CBC words, which are like cat and bat, all the way through some consonant digraphs, which those digraphs are like the SH, the NG, the CK, those types of words. And then for our Spanish assessment, they are also doing letter names and sounds as well as syllables, and syllables together in words, syllables in lists of words, and syllables in text. That's just the background of kind of what we are assessing our first graders on. So some of the successes that we have had the past couple of years and are really being highlighted this year is our focus on being tight on our tier 1 system. So the use of our adopted curriculum, Wonders Maravillas, that is a solid in all of our schools, and also following our recommended literacy block schedules, where there's 90 minutes of literacy broken down into small group, whole group, foundational skills, vocabulary comprehension, all the components of a robust literacy program, and our schools are following those literacy block schedules and recommendations. With our early literacy grant that we have received from the state, we have been able to also adopt a supplemental phonics curriculum and foundational skill curriculum K through 2. And a lot of our schools, based on data, are using that in their whole group time to be able to explicitly teach phonics and have that systematic repetition that maybe Wonders of Marvy isn't quite as explicit on. So we play on the data that the classrooms have. A teacher can choose to supplement with the Apply reading program. It's also used in intervention in small group and our What I Need time to really target the skills the students needs more support on based on the assessments that we give them. We also do our professional learning communities to make instructional decisions as part of our student support process. That's the first step. Teachers are using their data to inform their instruction as well as making sure that our students are getting the targeted instruction they need. We track those interventions, we track the data and look for progress and make adjustments as we go. So our first set of data here is our phonics survey for first grade. This is the English assessment. And what you're looking at here is on the left-hand side is winter 2024 compared to this winter 2025. And it shows about how many students have taken the assessment each year. This year, there were less first graders, so there's a smaller number. However, and just a reminder, this is apples to oranges, so it's different sets of students. But you can see that in all the columns, like letter sounds, consonants, the previous year, about 79% of our students were meeting on that task, knowing all of their letter sounds and consonants. And this year, was up to 85.4%. So down below, you'll see there's green in every single column. We have made a lot of growth from last year to this year. And typically in previous years, we'd have some red in there. We would have some spots where we didn't make growth or we went backwards. So really excited to see that overall, all of our first graders are making more progress this year in meeting those foundational skills. One thing to note too is you'll see as we go along the different skills, they get harder for our students. And so not all students are assessed in every single category because they may get frustrated or just get tired. And that's where they end on their assessment. And there's no sense pushing them farther because it could just cause them more frustration and lack of confidence. So do what they're ready to do and we keep assessing. So in the fall, maybe some students only were assessed in letter sounds and consonants and vowels, and that's where they hit their frustration point. But in winter, they may have continued on due to instruction and that tailored intervention that they've had and be able to get farther along in the assessment. So, what's really exciting is the consonant diagraphs in the list. We had a 26% increase from last year to this year. And one thing to note is students at this level who are not proficient yet by the end of the school year are invited to our early literacy summer school to get targeted intervention support for 3 weeks in early literacy.
So that'd be based on the spring assessment, not on this one.
It's a combination. We use this one to start inviting or making our list, and then we use the final assessment to adjust the instruction and whether they qualify or not.
From a teacher/academic standpoint,
yeah,
is it pretty easy to determine when a child might be that early learning summer school? I mean, is it,
yes.
Is it like going
Yeah,
and things, I know.
Yeah. And we give them guidance too, like say on the phonics survey, if they have only made it to task 3B, they really should, as a third grader, they really should be in our early literacy summer school. And we give them guidance on the students to look for. And they also know too, based on what they're instructing the students on, what they see daily, to also recommend students.
Is there a direct correlation between the English letter, sound, consonant, all the things over to French?
No question. There's a lot of transfer to the English and Spanish and back and forth. There are some things that differ, like Spanish doesn't have the digraphs. And so, yeah, so, what teachers would do with our dual language classrooms or our Spanish literacy classrooms is, explicitly teach the differences, but build upon the strength that students have in either language to transfer that knowledge to the opposite language. So, yes.
Sorry, another question. Is this something that we can share with our Latino pack to tell them that this is what we're testing on and this is what we're asking the children to know, what this would be equivalent in Spanish? And how much would that help if they knew what was coming, if they knew, or am I talking the obvious and will already accomplished?
I think there are good times when we have shared this data with them or what we're doing for a committee. It might be time to just bring that back around. You know, we've done some of this before, and here I know we're Olga and Fran were working on different things that they were sharing with the pack that were, I think, urgent matters too. So this is something where we can brought like strategic plan data to them. We can bring more literacy focus to them as well. Yeah, to do that, that's something that they would be interested in. I think that's a pack leadership question. Make sure that's something they want.
Just having them sit here and I'm going, they know this? Because this is going to be their children, because their littles are going to be, unfortunately, for numbers, there's probably more. Because of the majority numbers, there's probably a larger number of Latino children who are actually in that 66.4%, just by virtue of their population. Therefore, they might want to know.
We also do literacy and math nights at schools. So the principals of the schools would share this data and share literacy strategies with parents to teach about like how you do decoding, or here are key texts that you could use to read at home, or here's how you could set a timer and have your student read to you out loud at home and support all day long.
All right, the next slide is our focal group of Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, and it's the same skills that are assessed, and you can see the growth here has made as well, plus 26.3% in our vowel consonant and our consonant vowel consonants in the text, and consonant digraphs in list up 28%. So we are definitely making those gains and making some of those actions. Also, with our focal group of students accessing special education, same thing, some pretty exciting numbers that we have some great increases from last year to this year. Again, pointing out in the last two categories, 33% from last year. So we're excited about this growth because we are intentionally doing work with our student services. We're making sure that we're providing more PD and training for staff, making sure they have appropriate curriculum, materials. We were able to, with the Early Lit grant, buy some more tier 3, like really targeted interventions for our students accessing special education, to be able to support them with their learning needs as well. And then really working on more collaboration at the building level with our case managers and our classroom teachers in our PLCs and planning time to ensure that they're on the same page and making sure that they're, supporting each other and building off of each other their teaching instruction.
So does the winter 2024 number of 195 students that was given and then the reduced come out of 150?
Yeah.
Those increases could be considered good news or bad news. So for example, are we missing a population? Was that just enrollment decline?
That's just the enrollment number, most likely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe, but yes.
So it's not what this slide is about, but if I take the left-hand column, the previous two, we got about 1,500 first graders
Mm-hmm.
and 153 accessing special education. So is that ratio about right?
Yeah.
And then minus teachers? How are we going to keep it going?
Well,
We're gonna do our time, Nancy, because we know this is important work. We are definitely gonna, we've also set up for the last 3 years, great system structures and support that can use the work that we've done and support our staff. I think if we're building capacity, I think what we see in this and what Gina and her team have done to support our teachers is just build their knowledge around foundational skills and build their, toolkit that they can use to work with students. And while we may have a few more students in classes, I do believe that teachers will be an amazing job in this small group and really can do that targeted instruction. And then we will see what next year's data brings. And I think we're remiss to say too that this is also the work of our kindergarten teachers, that they are also like the PLCs are happening in kinder first, second, throughout that. And so we're seeing great things happen from this, and we're building up kids' foundational skills that will hopefully again lead to success for them as they going up through our grade level and make marked improvement.
So this is super good information. And it gives you something to say, here's hope. Yeah. Then my question is this a direct indication or indicator of what's then going to happen in the third grade level when we start assessing from a third grade perspective?
yes, it should be, because we first want to do our foundational skills, but also in kinder, first, second grade, they're also getting the vocabulary and the comprehension, but a majority of our time is spent on making sure that they can read. And then reading to learn starts happening second and third grade, where that shift starts happening. And with the more growth each year, then that shift will be an easier shift to make when there isn't such a wide disparity of non-readers and readers and the different levels in the classroom. So that should have an impact as we move up in the grade levels.
And then ultimately an impact on how we graduate, where we graduate.
Yeah. All of it. Yep. Yes. All right, the next slides are the same, but for our Spanish assessments. So all of our students in dual language and Spanish literacy for first grade. And again, in our Spanish foundational skills assessments, we have some great gains as well, going up from like 26% to 32% in open syllables and list and text. That's for all of our first graders in those programs.
Well, that's almost 50 students. Did I read that number right? Read something.
Well, again, we have a lower enrollment of first graders this year compared to last year. So, yeah.
Apples to oranges comparison.
Yeah, I know.
They want to merge together.
Yeah. And our same focal group of Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, again, making great gains in their skills of double digits as well. And then also for our focal group of students who are taking the Spanish assessment and students for access to special education. Again, I have to say the growth in our students accessing special education has been pretty incredible. They going up 43% and 34%. We have not seen those numbers typically in previous years of making that amount of growth. So what we're doing is starting to pay off.
What's the percentage of our student population that is accessing special education?
Now I think we're about 14.9-ish.
Okay. It's much lower than I thought it was. Okay, thank you. That makes me happy. I thought you were going to tell me it was 30%. Oh, no.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
State average is 15. Some places are 18, but state average, I think, is 15.
And I think part of my thought process is here we are, we're advocating for special ed, and when you get into the loop of advocacy, you then begin to feel that that's the whole world. And in truth, it's not. And I needed you to tell me that this is only maybe 14% of our kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now I'm feeling better, because when you're in the advocacy loop, it feels like it's 50%. And
right.
You have to do something for this 50%, and it's not 50%. It's not even 20%. So it helped to keep things in perspective, especially when you get sucked into the vortex of advocacy.
The cap is 11%. We're at 15. It's a big difference. Yeah.
Yes, but then the cap itself, it means something different to me if I know that we're only, we're 15%, and then I have to look at the numbers and understand, well, what does that mean for Beaverton? Salem Kaiser, what does it mean for Portland Public? But it's just helpful to keep it in mind. Sorry, it's like down there, we're trying to get the money. Well, who are you getting the money for? Is it for 30% of the kids? No, not really.
Please though.
So on this slide, we have I went into our data system and just pulled out a few of our students. Our student A is a first grader in an English only classroom. So just an example of what a teacher would look at. The first row is their fall score, and the second row is their winter score. So you can see that they have progressed, but the green, do this better this way. The green line here is where we really want them to be. They've had this instruction, so this is the goal for this first grade student. So they are green all the way here through our vowel consonants and CVC words, but not quite getting it in when they're in list or in text. So as a classroom teacher, I would look at this and know that this is in the red. This is a skill I need to target in their intervention group. And hopefully that will support this. And then I can move on to digraphs because they made some pretty great growth from winter from fall to winter, but they're just still not there. So I use that information to inform my instruction. Student B is a first grader identified as Hispanic, Latino, Latinx in a dual language program. And you can see that this is English, fall, winter, and the goal is to be here. And they definitely are almost there. These are yellows that we're just on the verge of knowing that skill. And then they do have a little bit of knowledge in some of these areas beyond there. And then in Spanish, their phonics fall is up to here, and these are in the red. So that was a big area to focus on for instruction. But their Spanish phonics winner, they're green all the way through this task, yellow, and then green again. So this is where the transfer happens. So our teachers would look at this and go, okay, I can use what they know here to help inform these skills here and vice versa. So
Like the light bulb.
yes, yep, and the light bulb now. Yep, for sure. And then student C is a first grader receiving special education services in an English only classroom. And again, they only were able to get through our letter names and consonants and our letter names, our sounds here and vowel sounds here. But all the way through winter, they still have a few of their vowels they're not quite getting. However, they're able to read the words, so they do know them. But in isolation, you might just need to shore up those skills, but they are getting it and just continuing on that grade level instruction.
So there's one more to go. There's a fall, a winter, and still one more
There's
left.
spring, yeah. Coming up.
It's a lot of assessment, right?
I think
One-on-one individual assessment.
I think it's also assessment that drives instruction, and I think in terms of when you talk about accountability and where we look at things, this is probably where I tell you that argument where ESPA, while it's a great end of the year dipstick, this is actually what informs our instruction and really changes.
This gives you information to improve.
Yeah, it gives you information in real time and what you're going to do first.
Whereas an SBAC does not.
And one thing to note with this assessment too is we don't start back at the beginning every time. We start where they maybe had a red area or a yellow red area to see that growth. Okay. Instructional supports. So these are the things that we have been doing, and a lot of them are because of our early lit grant that we had and that we will continue to have for the next biennium. So we have our core curriculum, our teachers follow the specific scope and sequence for that. Our English supplemental curriculum that I talked about, the U5 foundations. We also have Spanish supplemental curriculum, and we've been able to order more of those thanks to our grant so that our schools have multiple sets of intervention curriculum for our teachers. And there's a list of intervention curriculums that we are mostly using and have been approved as supplemental and intervention curriculum. Again, we have our upcoming assessment actually now through June. Assessing those skills where they left off and making those instructional changes as we continue for the rest of the year. And some progress monitoring is done as well. Because if there's just one specific area that I've been targeting with the student, I can just reassess them on that and see if they got it, and then I can continue to move on. So our Early Lit Success Grant supports all of those areas.
Just out of curiosity, this is something that every district does.
The phonics survey. I would say most districts have some sort of assessment similar to this. Yes, yeah. Professional development for teachers, kind of getting to some of the points that you were making, like that transfer of skills from English to Spanish. Our third bullet down there is the science of the bilingual reading brain. We have 3 teachers from every dual school. We have EL specialists from our dual schools and our Spanish literacy schools. Our Spanish literacy instructors, coaches, and the principals of all of those buildings have been taking part in a 5-day intensive training on what the bilingual reading brain is like and how those transfer skills can happen and how you build those into strengthen both languages. We've also, again, partnered with our student services department and provided reading intervention curriculum and training for at least one case manager at every single building and materials for them to start that program next year. We do grade level collaborations where we pull all of our kinder teachers together by feeder and provide professional development and collaboration time across the district, which they really enjoy doing. They have that time to be able to collaborate with colleagues from other schools and focus on the data and how to look at that to drive instruction. And then we have our intervention supplemental literacy curriculum PD for English and Spanish. So moving forward to the next biennium, we're continuing with our Early Literacy Success Grant and really focusing in on the things that we're doing well and shoring those up and continuing with our grade level collaborations, continuing with PLCs, hoping to continue with the science of the bilingual brain and have more teachers trained in that. So and high doses tutoring and summer learning program. All of those are really contributing to the success that we're having with our first graders.
We can't ask one.
I feel like with me and Gina, it's always along the way. You guys always ask. And we love it. But we're happy to bring anything.
I agree with you. It is exciting. It's hope, you know. I don't mean to sound esoteric, but that's the way you feel. I'm looking for anything that I can grasp on. And when I see a little, I just want to say, hang in there. It's going to get better. We're going to get better. We're going to get better. Stuff like this helps. I hope in some way that we're able to share that with, especially with our PAC, and also the information that goes with it so that they can start figuring out, how can I read with my little bit? How can I do all the things? It's just part of that communication that they have talked about. It's real, yeah. But thank you. This is so you have the right to be excited, and I say go have fun.
Can I have a comment?
Yeah.
This presentation came out of the curiosity of the board about what is it that we do before third grade so that we can meet our third grade goals. So from like a policy and budget standpoint, I think it's important for us to celebrate the fact that we have a strategic plan that focuses on third grade literacy and bioliteracy. We're required to meet targets for the state of Oregon with English literacy, but we've chosen as a school district to support biliteracy so the students can reach those goals. And that's a policy decision set by this board that you support bilingualism and bilingual education in Hillsboro. And so that's really important. And we need your continued support in that area. And then, 5 years ago, when we were talking about language arts adoption, we heard loud and clear that teachers didn't feel like they had the tools to support foundational skills and literacy. And you don't hear that anymore with tools like UFly and the new Wonders and Maravillas. When you go to classrooms now, you see foundational skills being taught in both languages, and we have the resources in the hands of the teachers to do that. So again, this board's decision to invest in new language arts curriculum and listen to our teachers about what they needed is a huge win for us, and it does set us up to be successful into the future. So The setting of the strategic plan, valuing good literacy instruction, and then sponsoring investment in curriculum is work that's done at the board level. And that's why I think we can brag in Hillsboro that we're making significant gains in literacy. It's also vulnerable because if we don't have the resources, we need to continue to invest in quality curriculum, invest in accountability that's sponsored as well with good assessment tools. Other districts and us, we will suffer and we will be delayed in our ability to reach more and more students, especially as we become more diverse and more multilingual. So I would just urge us all to keep focused on this goal for us and keep looking at the youngest grade levels. Our investment in pre-K, investment in K-1-2 literacy is super important. And it is true that with budget cuts, more challenges reaching more kids. So we need to continue to advocate, and we need to adjust our expectations based on our resource flow. We cannot ask Gina and her team to continue on this trajectory with less and less resources. Eventually, there's going to be some divergence in the line graph about our literacy scores and our investment in public education in Oregon. So sorry to preach advocacy, but I did want to celebrate this board for your sponsorship and your support of these types of practices that are getting good results. So thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is a wonderful presentation and all the information I was wondering, and I don't have a lot of questions about the little details because it's all really great. I want to kind of get your perspective on big picture. I like to listen to people who have thoughts on education, even if they're a little different than mine, take it all in and learn from it. And one perspective I was reading recently was from some folks who were saying that states like those in the South of Mississippi that historically struggled quite a bit in the past decades, but recently this past decade, since 2014, been pretty strong growth in the NAEP and other metrics as a result of really committing to science and reading. And so this person who had a little different perspective was suggesting to me that, you know, are we doing what these states are doing since they're having such good results and so forth? And when I read about, in detail about what those states are doing, it sounds like we are doing the same things with the literacy coaches and the nice reading focus and the data dashboard even that we're doing. I guess the only thing that it sounded like they were doing that we don't do is sort of a reading gate at the third grade where the test and progression from third and fourth grade might be dependent on whether students are up to that standard or not. But other than that, is your sense that we have learned from what's going on in all different parts of the country and different things that people have tried and that there's that kind of cross-pollination and learning from different success stories?
Yeah, I think so. Also, just making sure that when we're adopting curriculum, like the winners and core ideas, that we're looking for all the components of the science of reading. And we were fortunate that even kind of before the science of the reading after COVID, like really were brought to light, our curriculum that we chose had those components. So we were, I think, in some ways a little bit better off than some of our neighboring districts in that way, to be able to target those skills in those areas. And yes, learning from other states that I've heard and read the same thing. I think they're really targeting those foundational skills and using some of those supplemental explicit phonics programs that we have seen that, yep, maybe Wonders isn't, you know, doing the end all be all to that. So that we've seen that and are using the data to drive our decision making and using those other programs to have that more explicit instruction.
Good to know, yeah.
And I would say the thing that we're doing one that is different than those states is honoring the diversity of our students too. And I think that's the component that we need to also remember that is different from those statements that are focusing probably on an English only system. And I think what we're doing honors the diversity that can have. And we know that sometimes that trajectory doesn't quite. We can see those bar graphs. We make it that way purposely so our students can see where our students have gaps inside their language. And so I think that doesn't always show up right at third grade for them to be illiterate in those languages too. So we always make sure we're doing that. So I think that's something that we do slightly different. So our data might not
What's the average first grade class size?
I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head. I could pull it.
I was just wondering how that differed, or did it differ between 23, 24, 24, 25?
I don't think it differed.
Under the first grade classroom.
From last year to this year, I would say the average class size is not that much different. And I want to say, I know Brian put that data together for but I know we're definitely smaller.
Based
than we
on,
will be next year.
based on the data that she also shared last year.
Right, because the number of students went down as well, so yes. It's one of those things that comes up because remember, we're talking about money, we're talking about a deficit, we're talking about a change in potential class size, ratios of teacher to student, and so that's what they need.
I think it's always a struggle. I know Travis and Beth and others work on the idea of exactly how to communicate these things, with our community and what level of detail to go into, because I think we do a great job with our strategic plan and communicating that. I think that sometimes there's a perception on some people, there's different groups of people that look for different things, and so it's hard, but there's a perception on some people that they want to know, we're very fortunate in Oregon to have a pretty supportive community, especially, and they want to know, are we using the best practices, are we learning and comparing, and how are we watching to see if in some other place they're doing something really innovative and it's working well, are we following on with that? And I got confidence from everything I know here at work together. And so I just want to encourage everyone to continue getting that message out, even at the risk of being too detailed. But I think it is positive. There's an audience in our community, even those who don't have children right now in the school who are paying taxes, who want to know, are we really doing the best? And so I think that continue to get that message out.
I totally agree. That part of my optimism about the work that's happening in Oregon with accountability is that strategic plans like ours will become more common, and accountability documents like ours that show not only like the cohort data across time, but also disaggregate for focal groups who are behind and need catch-up growth. That's going to basically be mandated, I think. And so the transparency will be up. And we'll be sharing with our principals around the state, like we do in HSD, what is the data for early phonics instruction and how are students doing in the earliest grades, and then we'll see the third grade target, see ninth grade on track. It'll be a more part of the culture, I predict, in Oregon, that sort of transparency. Maybe not as nerdy as our graphs, but like you said, Patrick, like meeting the audience's needs. Like, what are you curious about? What does literacy mean? And then here's what we're doing. Because I think we should hold ourselves accountable to those standards until all of our students can read.
We are fortunate to be a small district in a lot of places, so I try to take that for granted.
Thank you.
I told the data, our average in first grade this year is about 22, 21, with the range of sizes going from 18 to 22. So they never move in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To Nancy's point about, and building on Nancy's point about getting lost on the advocacy tunnel, when we shared our advocacy document with the legislature that Beth created so well, the special education absorption costs $8.3 million per year. So when we talk about the lifting the cap, fully funding special education in Oregon, it doesn't just impact those special education kids. We're spending $8.3 million a year out of our general fund. We talk about $2.2 million to lower class size by 1 across the district. Even if we couldn't spend all of it on teachers, how many more teachers? That'd be a lot more teachers for everybody.
Thank you for helping us to keep the story together. Because when we are putting on our hat to advocate, you do get something out of the work, but you still got to know what's happening at the ground level, and then understand what that really does mean for us, for a Beaverton, for a Salem Highland, for a Portland. And I feel like I've been in the trenches learning, and I'm probably up to here in learning. And so everybody I talked to, I was talking to my physical therapist, his kids that are HON. And I'm just like, it's all, you know what I mean? And that was the other question. You
test the HOA. So HOA, they do have access to this assessment. They can do, but it's a little bit more difficult to do if coming in all the time. So they do attempt to do these. They do participate in our records too. So yeah. I was thinking.
Any other questions or comments for Gina or Audria? Okay. So tonight we're doing things a little bit different order, and we are ending our meeting with an executive session. So our last public agenda item is discussion time, and we'll go ahead and start off with our student reps.
First, I'm very glad that we got to hear. Wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, so I'm trying to think. I apologize for not being here to listen to the beginning of the discussion we had today. Glad we got to hear the remainder of it. And with that we've reaffirmed what communication we should be working towards in the future. Do you want to mention? This starts a bit weird, but I will get to a very, I think, relevant point. Months ago, many of our students, high school, middle school, and sixth grade, forecasted for their upcoming classes next year. Some students, their deciding factor for their classes were that their friends were in this class, or this one looks good on a resume. But a lot of students, I think, consulted with their teachers and with their parents. And they decided, this is the class I want. This is the decision that's best for my future. Fast forward to now, where in a week, HSD community members will be voting in a district election. And I'm not here to tell anyone who to vote for or if they should vote even. But I do ask that everyone please remain informed. The votes that we cast as a district will affect our schools, and they will affect the next generation of leaders that our schools bring up. All this to say is that we owe it to our students to understand the impact of our choices before we make them.
Thank you, Cal.
I'd like to start off by saying that the literacy and phonics data was really, really impressive to me. As I remember, I was in a special needs classroom when I was in elementary, and I do remember that a lot of people there were nonverbal. And to see the data that I see now, it's so much of an improvement. I was there. I do think that it is first grade, but at the same time, when we're talking things like third grade literacy and all that, you need to funnel people past first grade literacy to get them to third grade. So it's really great to see those numbers. I was shocked to see like the 30%. So I was like, how do you do that in like a year? But I'm really, really happy to see that, because I know that I've had friends in the past who have not made it past that level and struggled and continued to struggle as they went on. But I think it's really setting up people to be ready for where they are as they continue through school and keep them on track. So I do feel like that's definitely a level where some people get lost, and it's hard to recover that. But it's really, really awesome to see data versus what I used to feel and experience when I was there. It's looking a lot better for both English and Spanish too. That's another thing I want to say about it, is the fact that we can have such a strong bilingual program. It's just amazing to me, because I've seen all the other districts, their data, and it looks so skewed. I feel like we're starting to get to the point where it looks similar. I think is a really, really great place for working towards. I just wanted to share that because I was really, really moved by it. Thank you.
One.
I just wanted to say I'm so excited we're getting to the close of this school year. That's really amazing. I'm just so impressed by all the hard work everybody's like doing. And can you speak up a little bit? Oh yeah, sorry. But I'm just really happy about all the work that's being done, and I know that next year it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult, probably just with all the funding stuff going on. But honestly, yeah, I'm just glad that I'm able to be here.
Thank you. Travis?
Thank you. Thanks for the comments. Shout out to Gwen. Thank you for organizing a meeting between me and the Youth Advisory Council. We sat in this room and had sandwiches and we talked about big picture stuff. Thank you for that. I would encourage everybody to look at the hot news for the video that we released around hateful words, specifically our campaign against the N-word in HSD. So if you haven't seen that, our campaign has formally begun, and there will be lessons for all students in HSD between now and May 23rd that we put together, and have the plan is now happening. So what we may hear is from parents and students about their experience improving in HSD, and that'll be a great day if that happens. The 10th anniversary, Proud to be HSD, happened on Saturday. Shout out to Beth and her crew, everybody who had a hand in doing that. Shout out to Mayor Pace Barley, Chair Yvette Pantoja, and Vice Chair Mark Watson for being official judges of the mascot challenge, which I heard ended peacefully. There's only so many ways in our community that we can reach folks who don't have kids in our schools, and the Proud to be HSD Festival is one way that's really powerful. Because if you show up to the farmers market, you get a taste of who we are in HSD, and I think that's a really powerful communication strategy. So thank you, Beth. I also heard that vendors sell out of food on that day, and it's like a huge boon for the farmers market itself that we show up. So it's a win-win situation for the Hillsboro Farmers Market and the Hillsboro School District that we do that. In other news, Brooke told me today we got our summer school grant. And so all of our plans are now going to be in place for $1 million of summer school HSD. So thank you to the advocacy of our board members for advocating for summer program funding in Oregon. And now that we have the money, we know how much we can accomplish. That's not all we're going to accomplish. That's just supplements our already huge plans for summer programming that we pull off in HSD. So Brooke, thank you for your leadership in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go with our fellow board members. We'll start online. Erica?
I don't have anything else to add. I just want to say thank you for the presentations today. One thing that actually did come to mind just thinking about the reading was the data shows like 2 specific focus groups, but I was wondering about when there is intersection between those groups, like if a student belongs in both of those demographic, what does the data say in those situations? So that was just something that I was curious about, and maybe it could be something we follow up later. But again, thank you for educating us and giving us the tools for us to be able to speak about these topics in our community.
Monique?
Good evening, everyone. I don't have much either. I do want to say thank you for the board update concerning the alcohol and drug follow-up from the previous meeting. I look forward to part 2 on that. Thank you.
You, Patrick?
Wonderful meeting. I appreciate all the folks have shared, and look forward to the season of celebrating students in different ways, including culminating graduation coming up here. We'll have it once a year, so I encourage everyone to participate in as much as we can.
Thank you. Nancy? No. Sheehan? Mark?
Yeah, great. I didn't know there was gonna be here that fast. Summer learning. Just mentioned Senator Solomon, a proud champion of education, to co-sponsor that bill. I'm proud of her team. Proud to be HSD, to build on what Travis said too. The people that I know from the city have said, multiple people have said, it is the most well-attended farmers market day of the whole entire summer. So yeah, super great to be there. We had to have a dance off, but we felt like it was, it's not because my kids are Century Jaguars, it's because the Century Jaguar won. And yes, get out and vote. Only the data says only 23% of Oregonians or people in Washington County, people in HSD are going to vote this time. So, your vote means that much more when only 23% of people live on it. So,
That is correct. Thank you, Mark. Just like Mark and Travis said, great to be proud to be HSD. Congratulations, Beth, and everybody who took part of that. And that's a great, awesome tradition. 10 years and more to go. Congratulations on that. What was it? Oh yeah, Thursday is the Crystal Apple Awards. I hope to see some of you guys there to celebrate our educators throughout Hillsboro and actually they do neighboring cities, do they? Or is it just HSD? Just HSD there. And with that, thank you for being here. And our meeting is recessed at 6:58. And everyone but the boardroom, your superintendent Raymond are free to go. Thank you.